Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because you are all in different parts of the world, I'm sure, watching this today. My name is Richard Askam. Welcome to Print Island, and what we're calling the Meet the Hosts session, just to get you used a little bit to who we've got working with us around the world of print. And today it's a twofer. We've got two for the price of one, in the form of Tim Cox on that side, as I'm looking at it, Scott Mackey on that side of looking at it. And you're both in slightly different locations. Let's see who wins. Tim, you go first. Tell us where you are.
I'm on the darker side of the moon today.
Okay, that's good. And Scott, where can you beat that?
Somewhere in the Pacific Rim. Yeah,
Well,
dark side of the moon.
it's kind of the same thing, isn't it, really? And so
I was just trying to be exotic, but I'm not. I'm in Cambridgeshire in the UK.
okay, there we are.
And the sun's shining.
I should be more formal then in that case and introduce you to our UK host of Print Island, Mr. Tim Cox, who is in Cambridgeshire, and Mr. Scott Mackey, who is our Asia Pacific host of Print Island, who is in, where did you say you were?
Philippines today, mate.
Philippines. And we've just actually, literally before we started this recording, Scott was in the middle of a tropical storm. So what you would have heard when I introduced him was, because that was basically what was hitting the tin roof of the shack that Scott clearly lives in, as you can see from his background. Well, listen, guys, it's lovely to have you on today, and more importantly, it's amazing to have you involved in Print Island, something that we've been putting together for the last 6 months, really to try and bring the industry around the world view and around the world voice, but done in the way that I think the print industry works best, which is when we're all relaxed and we're all a bit more informal and we're all chatting to each other as if, in fact, we were at the hotel bar at the end of a print show. You've been in those bars, haven't you, both of you?
No, I can't say.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Honestly,
right. It's going to be like that. Okay, that's fine. We'll treat this as a police interview then, and you can just say no comment for the rest of the section. That's fine.
Apologies for my cocktails this end, Richard.
Now, well, there's time, Tim. So let's put it that way. So maybe one of your people can rush in and bring you
my
something.
People.
Yes, exactly.
You can't
but listen,
by your own standards.
It's great to have you both on today. Obviously, Print Island, brand new show, going to be launching on July the 1st around the world. We've got some great plans for it and some great content to be recorded and broadcast on the channel. Scott, you tell me a little bit about what you've got in mind for what you'd like to use Print Island for your voice in your region.
Yeah, great. I think the concept of Print Island, I think we've talked about before, right? And connecting really the industry to the world in many ways. We're all around the world. We meet all the time, and then you have all these suddenlies. Oh, this has happened. This is going on. And I think hopefully for me, connecting, whether it's vendors or someone is doing something in the industry and really shining a light on it so that people around the world can start to connect the dots. Doesn't matter what part of the industry it's in, whether it's new technology, whether it's a new application innovation, and really talking to people about that, how they're being successful and moving the business forward. I've previous life, been witness to a lot of great innovation all over the planet and met some amazing people along the way. And so that's my hope, to continue that, continue sharing, lifting the sort of covers on what's been happening. And I still think, even though we've got obviously some global change in the economy, hopefully you'll still see the industry is still growing, still moving forward. And for me, that's one of the best kept secrets. It still had hundreds of billions of dollars added to it in the last decade. But yeah, print is dead. Long live print. Yeah, and I hope
exactly.
that's some of the stuff that we get to share along the way.
And that's a really good point about best kept secret, Scott, because the premise of Print Island originally was to make the point that the whole global print industry, which is incredibly successful and incredibly innovative, but not brilliant at telling the rest of the world what it's good at. And I sort of came up with this idea of the fact that the whole industry lives on an island and it knows everybody on that island and it talks to everybody on that island, but it's never left the island. And as a result, Tim, we have this debate all the time, don't we? Is print dead? Well, absolutely not. But they could do with telling more people than just themselves. This is kind of why we've created Print Island.
No, I completely agree. I think print, I mean, son of a printer, I speak from a father's point of view and many that I've come into contact with. I think that print is often overlooked when people are designing campaigns, brands, etc., e-packaging, name it, it doesn't matter. And I think that printers are notoriously bad at communicating how good they are out to the outside world that are influenced and affected by the skills that print offer. And I think too often, print are the afterthought, but they're often seen as the fixers. So a great idea would have been put together with no consideration of the printed piece, but the printed piece could actually be the generator of the online experience. So I think that I agree with what Scott said. I think that there's an enormous amount of coverage on all the big manufacturers, all the leading lights in the print industry, what they're doing, how they've invested, acquisitions, mergers, you name it. But I think I don't want to call it the smaller printer, but let's say the general printer, the companies that don't see themselves as particularly great, but actually they are, often describe themselves with the word just in front of everything that they outline about their business. And I think that these are the people that know they've got to change, that the industry is changing, that the world is changing, that the industry is no longer autonomous and able to decide its own direction. It's being affected by everything from out there. So for me, it's about understanding that their challenges. If there are people out there who are brave enough to raise the subject that is one of their biggest challenges. It could be a sales-based issue. It could be a resource issue. It could be a technology issue. It might be that they're trying to make their business more efficient. That for me is really the interesting bit, because you can read the rest in all the print journals or go to a show and see the big lump of grey spitting paper out with marks on it all day, every day.
And that's the thing, isn't it? And Scott, I know you've just sort of recently come out of one of the major manufacturers. We won't mention who it is, but there's many available. It could be any of them. Who knows?
All of them.
But one of the premises of Print Island is that we are not going to be sponsored. We're not going to be, vested interest in what the manufacturers are doing or saying, and not for a bad reason, just to keep that independent voice. Because I think, as Tim's just said, really eloquently, that the general printers around the world, of which there are hundreds and thousands of people involved in the print industry around the world, only tend to get a version of what's possible from the very people that wish you to buy it from them. And a little bit like Top Gear, and we're modeling ourselves a little bit on Top Gear, that we'll tell you what it really means, not what they say it is, but what it really is. And I think with no fear or favor as to what outcome that brings, but at the very least, our viewers, our subscribers to Print Island, will understand that they don't like what they hear, but they respect that it's the truth. And I think that's a really nice position to take, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's the ability to share, deep insights from people that have such a broad cut of the industry as well. And part of my new day-to-day life and my new business and everything is actually about that, and looking at new technology, where is it going, and being able to come at it from an industry point of view, from a very, what can I say, database, data-driven, fact-based, and then bringing a broad perspective to it as well, so that it's not one of the challenges that you just brought up, and I couldn't agree more, is that the advice often in the industry comes from individual under the umbrella of technology vendors. And I think it's the fact that we have so many independent people here from different parts of the industry bringing different opinions, different insights, and I think in a positive way as well. Not Top Gear's a great analogy, right? And being able to, I love Top Gear, who doesn't, if they're into cars? And it's that ability to look at it objectively, sense of humor around it as well. That we have a new flux capacitor within this printing press, and it's going to solve everything that you've ever seen before. Yeah, great. The technology that we have these days in printing is genuinely amazing. Yeah, it's come such a long way.
Agreed.
And everyone is investing in it and moving the industry forward. Yeah, they're all to be applauded for tremendous efforts there. But I think when we can come at it quite subjectively, that should bring a fresh take on things.
And I think that take, Tim, Top Gear is our sort of our Bible here that we're using, because all of those guys that presented Top Gear love cars, and they're experts in the automotive industry, and so they want the automotive industry to grow and be the best thing that it can be in the world. Bring that over into print, and I haven't met anybody yet that around the world at the trade shows that I'm lucky enough to go to and the stages that I've been lucky enough to stand on that doesn't love what they do. So it's not we don't have to inspire people to love the industry. What we're trying to do with Print Island is get them to talk about it wider, broader, so that other people, other industries, agencies, brands, creatives, because they're the ones that don't get what's being done, do they?
Agreed. I completely agree. And it's the same conversation. I mean, I sound like I'm the only one who's ever had this conversation, but I bet I could ask nearly anyone who, let's say, has a more independent engagement with the print industry. That it's the same conversation has been for the last decade. I think that a lot of the people that I have conversation with, they just want answers. They know that they're looking for something, but they don't know where to find independence, or they don't know how. It might be that they don't have the internal skills, they don't have the funding, they don't have the technology to actually do what they need to do. So I think there's a lot of people out there right now looking for direction. So I think if Print Island can provide someone with that, I guess an opinion base, knowledge base, I think it would benefit a lot of people who may never talk about it, but just to know that there is a slightly different take on the way the industry works, because you can't be impartial in this world. No manufacturer is going to be impartial, even when they're talking about integration partners. They've made a decision who they're integrating with, which means that you're always going to be directed in a particular way, and that might be great. If you started off with a greenfield site and you took that advice, you'll have a phenomenal business. It'd be set up perfectly. But realistically, people don't have that luxury. And they also have businesses that move outside of the parameters that probably the manufacturers that are advising can provide. So I guess just keeping that independent approach with a little bit of reality, but obviously keeping integrity at the heart of it all, is the most important thing.
And I think coupled with that as well, and this is one of the things that we've been very lucky to be able to put together, is the breadth of that knowledge. So and when people throw the word global around as if it's an easy word to say, and of course it isn't, because there's no such thing as a global customer, only a local customer. But what we've tried to bring forward here with our correspondents, our Avengers, our hosts around the world, from Latin America, US, Canada, UK, EU, Middle East, Far East, Australia. I think that's pretty much. I don't know where we've missed. I don't think there's any print shops on Antarctica, but I'll check it out. But that breadth of opinion, because you're absolutely right, Tim. It is opinion based, but when you ally that to experience and regional variance, because it will change. Every market is different, as we know. I think that for me, Scott, is where I'm more excited about Print Island from that all round the world view than I think I've been in a long time.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think one of the things that's exciting me is exactly that you're going to get such an insight from customers, from vendors, from technology, what's going on where. In that, one of the benefits of previous life of going around the world, you get all this mix of what's happening. It's amazing insight, and being able to just tap into, even if 30 minutes of that, a quick update, who knows what you'll catch. And I've seen it from my travels. People that I was in Korea, I've brought it back to Indonesia, implemented exactly what they were doing, transformed the business. But I'm not saying we might or may not be able to share some of that, but there's going to be more opportunity of that happening if people are tapping into what's happening in the UK, what's happening in Denmark, what's happening in Texas, whatever is going on.
Exactly.
And I think that's I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see the content that's going to come myself Never
Yeah.
mind that, everyone else
Yeah.
is going to plug into it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing, isn't it? And I hadn't actually thought of it in that perspective, that we're also helping each other, in having these conversations and interviews and reviews and all of the stuff that's going on around the world is informing everybody that's part of that community. And I think you mentioned about the traveling around the world, and of course that's become A, expensive, and B, time consuming, and C, quite dangerous
Yeah.
in certain places.
Yep.
The joy of what we're putting forward here as a subscription model is, for less than the price of a cup of coffee every week, you'll be able to get that 30-minute update from the whole global industry. It's always about the one thing, isn't it, Tim? We go to print shows all the time looking for that one thing that will make a change and a difference to our business. Maybe that one thing they'll find that in the middle of print.
For me also, Richard, I think that even though I know it's more about bringing people in to talk about specific, insights, let's call it, I think it would be interesting to see if we can get anyone that wants to be part of the island to also raise dilemmas, that they might face in business, insights into bad experience that could be avoided if it was shared. And I think that, I think buying equipment, buying software, handling that side of things is almost marriage like in a comparison, in that, at first everything's great, it's exciting, everything looks almost amazing on the tin. It comes in, it's still the same. It's not until you've been, I guess, wedded for a while to the manufacturer or the people that have worked with you to realize the dream, the investment, whatever, that you start realizing maybe things that you didn't consider at the start that maybe you do differently. And to get the insights from people that are probably in that wedded state, to understand a little bit more about, well, if they had their time again, this is what we would do. And I think even if it's not necessarily mentioning any names and pack drills, for fear of incrimination, etc., I think the most important thing is there are people out there. There are people who are still now making their first venture into web to print, making their first venture into digital presses. They're looking to automate what was probably a very manual finishing environment. There are people that are now looking to manage local country businesses on an international stage, and they just don't know how to do that. So to get insight from people that have been there, I think could really help as well.
I totally agree, and that's it's such a multifaceted resource, and that's exactly what we wanted to create. But that feeling, as I said at the beginning, that it's relaxed, it's informal, it's informative, and a safe place, really, I think, for people to come and talk freely and openly. I know you've got some great guests lined up to interview over the coming months. And we're going to feature different interviews from around the world on every episode. So, it's an exciting time, I think, for the industry, and it seems like a great starting point for Print Island to launch on July the 1st. I said it here first, July the 1st. And I'm very much looking forward, as I always have done, to working with you guys on this project. So thank you for joining me today. We've run out of time. I said it'd be 5 minutes, and it turned out to be 18. But that's the nature of it, isn't it? So I'm going to raise my glass to you, gentlemen, for your time. You can raise whatever you have in your. Oh, okay, slightly less exotic, but there we go. We can't have everything.
But we are slightly less exotic than you, Richard. So we have to have something less exotic.
Indeed, and so from the dark side of the moon, and from the Pacific Rim, and from Print Island. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Bye. Take care.
See you.